Okay, hold on. Now we're going to go live. Okay. So apparently, I didn't realize this. I assumed that because if you look now, Tim, I think it's on there. I made an assumption that that our friends at Zoom and our friends at YouTube all agreed on stuff. And so when you started with Zoom, it'll kick off all your other streaming, but I still have to go to YouTube and say, start the stream. And now I can see it on there and it says live, and we've been live for 35 seconds. So does that sound right? By the way, never mind. I can't say it. We'll have to do this in the off, in the after meeting.
Yes, it makes sense to answer your question. And I do see that we're broadcasting.
Okay.
So whatever you did, address the issue.
All right. So with that said, we wanted to continue on our conversations that we had from yesterday. That we are, that we have, we ended yesterday on imposter syndrome, and we ended up with what happens when you talk too long, and how does that drive then the self-fulfilling prophecy of imposter syndrome. So kind of wanted to pick it up there. When we were talking about it yesterday, you felt like there was a lot of maybe more there to unpack and to talk through. So just wanted to kind of throw that back out as the topic for the day, as well as get your take on that part of the topic. Because I talked, you didn't get a chance to talk yesterday.
Well, I thought I talked a lot yesterday.
Well, so you did talk a lot yesterday, but not about,
that's the whole premise.
Not about that topic.
Yeah. It boils down to confidence. If you feel like you have to repeat yourself when you talk, or you feel like you have to reword what you just said and say it again, that's the lack of confidence you have in yourself. Now, fixing the confidence is one story, but recognizing that you have a confidence issue and addressing it, right, is the start to that, right? Once you start to realize that, hey, you are of value, you do have a lot to contribute. When you talk, you do know what you're talking about. That's the process of addressing that confidence issue that you may be struggling with. And if you're struggling with confidence, you will find yourself in meetings repeating yourself, talking over yourself, almost rehashing or rewording what you just said over and over and over, because you feel like either you didn't articulate well, no one is listening, and it's a perpetual process or a perpetual mindset that you put yourself in.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation for our listeners is look at yourself and look at where you're at in your career. And you're not going to be the most knowledgeable person on any given topic. You're just not. Right? If you're at a table with a bunch of network engineers and you're having a discussion about a networking issue, and you're not knowledgeable on that technology, which not everybody's going to be, that's okay. But don't feel like you need to compensate for your lack of knowledge by just running your mouth, right? And we all find ourselves doing that. We do. We absolutely do. We get self-conscious and say, hey, I should know more about Cisco SD-WAN Viptela. And I'm going to make sure everybody around this table knows that I know. And to do that, I'm actually going to just really, really just continue to repeat myself on one particular topic about SD-WAN. But in reality, what you actually, the impression you give everybody around the table is that you really don't know much, but you're trying not to appear that way.
Yeah,
I think then back into your imposter syndrome.
Right. I think so. How I've dealt with it in the past, and how I still deal with it today, not necessarily the imposter syndrome part of it, but the over talking part of it is, I always have a notepad next to me when I'm in a meeting, and you have to be present in the meeting. I don't know how to stress that enough. It just, imposter syndrome or not, you have to be present in the meeting. And if you aren't, you're going to be that guy that ends up rambling because you weren't really paying attention, or you're the guy that says, I don't know, I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me or whatever. I read a quote from somebody else the other day that was the most focused person in the meeting wins. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. But I keep a notepad next to me. And as people say things I don't know, then I write down, it's almost like a split, right? And on the left-hand side is things I want to say. And on the right-hand side is questions I have. And I'll just question, what is, he just said Viptella. What is Viptella? And I write it there, right? And then questions come up in my head and I write them down. And then people keep talking, and I write another question down. And then, a point I want to make, and I write that down. What I've found is a lot of the time people will solve those problems as they're going through the meeting. And then the problem comes in for me. Oh, they're solving all of that stuff without me saying anything. And I'm like, I gotta sound like I'm providing value here. And, but I'm not, because I'm not saying anything and they're all saying things and blah, they sound smart and I sound stupid, and imposter syndrome sneaks in. If I look at my sheet and I go, and there's a pause in the conversation and I say, look, I had a lot of questions, but you guys are kind of answering them as we go down. And so I think that's great. You guys have had a really good conversation and I didn't want to interrupt. With that said, I do have one or two other questions. Or, I had a lot of questions, but you guys really ticked them off and you answered all the questions I had. What are our next steps, right? I don't have to say anything other than that. And okay, I was part of the conversation, but it's just this weird, like, if I don't say something, then they're going to know I'm not providing value. And it's all, in some ways I would say, no, you're in the room. You wouldn't be in the room if they didn't think you had value. It might be that, you're not providing value like at that moment, but you're in the room for a reason. So almost thinking of it like, trying to think of it like sports, right? If you're the goalie of a really good hockey team that's just destroying the other hockey team, or soccer, or whatever your sport is, or you're the reliever pitcher and they just don't need you that day, does that mean that you didn't need to show up to the game at all? You didn't need to dress out? You didn't need to be in the net? No, you had to be there, and it's important for you to be there. Nobody would look at you and go, we didn't even need you today, dude. You could have just stayed home. Nobody's going to say that. We needed you. Your skill set didn't get applied today, but that's okay. Tomorrow, we're probably going to run up against a team that's going to destroy us, and there's going to be 100 shots on goal. Great. Their goalie, they certainly needed their goalie today. Tomorrow, that might be you. So it's okay. Just saying, it's okay if you're in full dress, ready to answer, and you just don't happen to have anything that anybody has a question for you that day. But anyways, I'm not sure how either one of us, we're terrible at talking short. All right, so let's get to the jokes. Okay, now I'm gonna start today because I took yours from yesterday and I reworked it a little bit. I have two outcomes from it, so I thought I would share it.
All right.
Yeah, so I told my doctor the other day that I thought I have imposter syndrome, and he said, "You don't have." He said, "You have imposter syndrome because you're not good enough. You're not an expert. You don't know anything about what you're talking about. You're not a doctor. I don't have any idea why you would even bring these things up to me. You're clearly an idiot." And then I realized, nope, that's just the conversation I had in my head. And then the other one is, I told my doctor, I think I have imposter syndrome. And he said, yeah, after I failed out of med school, I felt that way for a long time too. Or I have imposter syndrome. And they said, well, that's really like negative self-talk. imposter syndrome is really negative self-talk. And I said, oh, so the voice is in my head anytime I'm not talking? Or, oh, so imposter syndrome is, I like to call that my daily commute. Or, yeah, negative self-talk. Yeah, for me, that's like counting sheep. Anytime I try to go to sleep, that's just what happens. So those are my open source comedy for the day. What you got, Tim?
I heard this joke last night during a Toastmasters meeting that I attended last night, and the gentleman that was presenting the joke, he is known to struggle in his speeches and his confidence, which it really aligns with imposter syndrome. I know he's probably struggling a little bit with that. When I find out he's actually a scientist and his full-time job, it made me chuckle. I thought that was pretty ironic and interesting, but that's his job, which makes perfect sense for the most part. So the joke that he tried to present, which by the way, when he started out great. Like he had everybody, it was all virtual last night. Everybody you could see in the camera that they were on the edge of their seats and they were waiting for the punchline, waiting for the twist. And it really sounded like it was going to a good place. So I'm going to give you the joke and then I'll tell you where he kind of went off the rails with it. So there's an atheist that's walking through the woods, and the atheist comes across a bear that's drinking from a creek, and he tries to tiptoe around the bear so the bear doesn't notice him. The bear catches, sight of him and starts chasing after the atheist. So the atheist runs up a tree, and when he gets up in the tree, he realizes there's no way out of the situation. Either the bear is going to maybe potentially leave, or he's going to get tired, fall out of the tree, and the bear's going to eat him. So he starts praying to God. And God answers back and says, well, you don't believe in me. Why should I save you? And the guy says, well, this is true, but can you at least make the bear believe in you so that he's a Christian, so he won't kill me? And the God chuckles and says, nah, I don't think so. That's not how it works. So basically they stop talking. The guy stands there or sits there. He gets tired. He falls out of the tree. Bear eats him. He gets killed. He goes up to heaven. Guy meets God and says, God, I do believe in you. I made a mistake. And God says, I know. That's why I killed you, to make you believe. And now that you're here, you're going to be judged. And oh, by the way, you're going to hell. There's absolutely no punchline, and I should have started with that. But that's the joke. That's the joke. That's the joke. And he struggled through that. I struggled through that. But Jerry, the energy, and his eyes lit up, and he was confident and articulate.
Oh,
and you
my
could
God.
just tell, as I was doing myself, which was intentional, and you could tell on the way how that confidence began to just fade away, and he was getting quieter, and there was more pauses, and he just got quieter and quieter. We're just like, and at the same time, I'm watching we're in a Zoom meeting. I'm watching everyone else, and they weren't doing this, but this is what was in my mind. Everyone was doing this.
Yeah, they're just
like, oh, no, bring it back up, bring it back up. Poor guy. But for our listeners, this ties into that imposter syndrome. If you find yourself around a table talking with other people and you feel self-conscious and you feel like you don't belong, Jerry alluded to it earlier, you have made it to the table. You're there for a reason. Somebody saw something in you. You were hired, you said the right things, you have the right things in your resume. So as soon as you catch yourself thinking that way and start to go in that direction, you need to stop yourself and remind yourself, where you are in your life and how you got to where you are, and realize that you deserve it, and realize you have a lot more to learn.
Yeah. All right.
I need to come back with better material for sure.
Well, I think this is good,
I mean,
right?
this is what it's about, but yeah,
This is what it's
I
about.
absolutely do. Yes, I absolutely do. Oh, I have one more thing to share with you.
Go ahead.
You're ready for it.
I'm ready.
This is, yeah, am I good to take my 1 minute?
Yeah, take it.
Yeah, is that okay? Okay, because I know we're crunched for
I
time
mean,
today.
you kind of took it with that shitty ass joke, but
Hey,
okay.
that was a horrible joke. Yeah. So this is also for that individual sitting around the table. And this is also for you, Jerry, for myself. I listened to this yesterday and I thought it was just amazing. It's from a gentleman his name is Chris Williamson. He's a motivational speaker. And he says that in the point of your life where you're feeling down and you're ready to give up, this is where other people in your position quit. This is where most quit. And this also goes with the saying of, for all those gladiators out in the arena who feel beat up and feel scarred and feel hopeless. This is, if you're running a business or starting a podcast, when it gets hard is when everybody begins to give up. But you're not going to give up because this is what you were meant to do. 90% of people who start a podcast quit after 3 episodes. 90%. 90% of groups that start podcasts quit.
Wow.
After 3 episodes. The remaining 10%, 90% of those quit after 20 episodes. So if we can create at least 21 episodes, we have done what 1% has not done. We're in the top 1%.
So give me the stats again, because I want to write those down.
Yes.
That'll be motivation for me. 90% quit after 3, and then
of those 10% that are left, 90% quit before their 20th episode or after their 20th. So if we can complete 21 episodes, we are in the top 1% of podcasters. And that is, in relative terms, a success. So for those listening, that applies across the board. And again, if you're feeling down, you're feeling like giving up, you're feeling like you're not getting any better, this is where everyone else would quit. And if you're feeling down and upset, and feeling like you are an imposter around that table or in that meeting, and you think that the easy way out or the best way is to get out and go find another job where no one knows you yet, but they will get to know you, you're not solving your problem. You're not. You're running from it.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. We're going to stop the stream and tell everyone, if you want to join us here on stage, feel free to reach out in all of our social media locations, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, wherever else. And in the meantime, share this out with your friends. Be sure and subscribe. We certainly appreciate you joining us here today.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. You guys have a great one.
All right. So here's a question for you. I'm going to do something real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are we still recording? You are still recording.
So I'm still